Okay, Chris, nice to see you again.
Welcome to Kennedy's.
Thank you. It's looking beautiful in here.
Thank you very much.
Always, actually.
Yeah,
Always,
thanks.
actually. That's why I frequent this beautiful garden.
It's a good time of year.
Yeah.
The spring is always a great time to be at a garden center.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm excited to see the plans, and I see you've sketched them out here.
Yes.
And so tell me what we have going.
All right. Well, beachy location. We want to have lots of color.
Yeah.
You're going to get a lot of summer use out of this place, I'm sure.
Yes.
And let's keep with the kind of a seaside theme, and we can use some ornamental grasses, interesting textures, probably some big leaf hydrangeas, big flowers, summer color, mix in some roses, some perennials.
Beautiful.
So we'll kind of run the gamut. We'll use maybe a few trees to try to soften the house, add some height, kind of bring down that big house of yours.
Nice. Beautiful. Yeah, so pretty much what you thought at the time was right. I mean, you went in there and you nailed it and then sketched it out. And
the space dictates pretty much what we used when it comes to the kind of the shapes and the types of plants. The conditions really will dictate, the types of plants that we can use in terms of what can tolerate different conditions. So we have a very sunny location.
Yep. Probably high moisture in the air there, I would imagine, right? A lot of ions and things going on.
Correct, and a lot of salt, so that is something to be concerned with.
Okay.
And that wind is a huge factor in the wintertime. So we often choose plants that don't have leaves in the wintertime, but things that give you lots of color in the summer when most people are going to be out and about and using their house that's near the ocean.
And so, so this is the front of the house, and you've got, it looks like 3 layers, 3 levels coming down.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we have a tree here in the Japanese maple,
Yep.
and then we can use the big leaf hydrangeas as the backdrop, and then we can go down with roses, and then another layer with perennials. And on the corners, we can use something more tall and narrow, such as a grass or a fine line buckthorn to give it some interesting texture and fill this kind of narrow space, but give it some vertical height.
Yeah, no, rose is the only thing I haven't done, but I have done hydrangeas. I love them.
Okay.
And I love grasses, and I love the movement, the undulating. I mean, I just love it. Like where you are near the marsh, I love just watching marsh grass. It changes colors, it moves, it's always different,
So
undulates.
we can incorporate all that. I can go show you our display gardens and some of the plants that are there and see what the plants look like when they mature a little bit, because when they first go in, they're a little small, and then they grow into the space.
Right. Isn't it like sleep, creep, and leap?
That's right.
That's
First year they sleep.
Yeah.
Second year they creep. Third year they leap.
Yeah. You can always tell when someone's just planted. Most of the time,
Correct.
They're in the sleeping stage, but then they get really beautiful. And I think I heard one time that most landscaping is supposed to last about 30 years or so before it gets a little bit
Correct.
over.
And
so you have to replace it every 30 years. That's not too bad.
It depends on the client.
Yeah.
I have some clients that want instant gratification and
Yeah.
just want big plants to start.
Yeah.
And I have other clients that are very tolerant of what their landscape looks like, even when it's a little bit overgrown.
Right.
So there is a little bit of stretch in there. But yeah, I think we kind of give it that 20-year, give or take 10 years, depending on how picky we are.
Yeah, yeah.
And I have clients that put plants in and then replace them every so many years because they just want that instant gratification.
Yeah. I always think of them as big, what I call cupcakes, that in front of the house that you could tell when they've been there 40 years.
Correct.
They've lived in that home and they've never, they might trim them, but they're giant.
We call them gumballs.
Okay, I call them cupcakes.
Yeah.
At least we both have a name for them, so we know what we're talking about.
We do. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, okay. And so do we have anything for the back?
We do. We do. Yeah. So as we move around down the driveway, past
That's
the
my
stairs.
outdoor shower, which I'm looking forward to because right now I could use one. It's warm and
yeah, that's my favorite addition to my house is just having that shower coming back from the beach or the boat.
Yeah.
And you can just walk right back to that direction.
Perfect.
The idea would be to put a shrub to soften the space between the stairs and the air conditioning unit and some of these utilities.
Okay, and that concrete foundation.
Yeah, and you can use the pavers in the driveway to get to the grill in the back.
Okay.
And then we'll just soften along the edges. Might be able to do a row of perennials such as hostas, a little bit shadier here. We just need to kind of soften this spot. It's a low, kind of a narrow space.
Yeah.
And this is the shed here.
Yep.
So it kind of blocks the light a bit for most of the day, and so does the tall house.
Okay, so these are shade plants for sure.
Absolutely. And then we can come in here, kind of turn the corner, maybe add some stepping stones to get to the shower, maybe to the bulkhead. and then some shrubs along the back foundation just to kind of soften things, okay?
Yep.
It's kind of a tight area, so we don't want to overdo it.
Right.
And then we can add in a few more perennials and ground covers and things like that.
Yeah.
Depending on how much maintenance we want, we can try to, focus more towards the low maintenance plants and not make it too much work.
I like how you put the grill there.
Yes.
So it's close. It's close to the kitchen.
Correct.
Yeah, you didn't like tuck it here with a patio or anything. You kept it right center. Nice.
Depending on who's grilling, I usually get the feedback that they want that pretty close.
We're not going to mention that.
Right.
Okay, that looks awesome.
Okay.
And so next we just walk around and you show me the plants. And
Yeah, let's pick some plants. I can show you some mature plants in the display garden. We'll walk around, look at plants that will go in, and make some decisions and get this project rolling.
Yes, sounds good. So we're starting with the hydrangea.
Hydrangeas would make a great backdrop for the front foundation planting. Again, big leaves, big flowers. This is a high impact one. This particular one is called Incrediball.
Incredible.
Okay? Yeah. And if you Google pictures of Incrediball, you'll see pictures of flowers that are this big.
Do they get that big?
They do. And some of these varieties are known to be really floppy because the flowers get so big, and when it rains, the weight just pulls them over. Incrediball is actually a bigger flower with a stronger stem. This is actually Incrediball. We sell lots of these. In fact, we have really hard time keeping these in stock. Big, huge flowers, can take the full sun. It's a white, so it goes with every plant, every color
Yes,
house.
yes.
It just works.
And lots of texture. And so
Yes.
is this as big as the little flowers get on it? Or
They
is
keep
it-
getting bigger and bigger.
Yes.
Now, these also
I
bloom.
mean, I know you said it was big, but I was wondering the tiny parts. Do these
Yeah.
get all bigger too when it all gets bigger?
And it depends a little bit on when they're pruned, like if you prune them. But this is one of those hydrangeas that can be pruned, and the size can be controlled by pruning, and then they flower no matter what kind of winter we have. So they start smaller and then get bigger and bigger as the season goes along. They start green and then turn to a pure white, a gorgeous white, and then they kind of fade back to a green for the end of the summer. And it's a great plant. You can't go wrong with
And
it.
so how old is this one, do you think? So we wouldn't be getting this size. We'd be getting something small. I mean, this is
You'll be
big.
amazed the difference between what they look like in year 1 versus year 2 or 3.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think this is the second full year these are
Okay.
in the ground,
Yes.
and these started with pretty small plants.
Yeah. How many
So-
plants are in there, do you think?
There's 3. We have 1, 2, 3 here,
And you space them kind of tightly together. That's intentional because you wanted this whole thing to be one fluid.
correct. And in front of the house, we often will do odd numbers. So this is why we use 3, and I often don't put them in an exact straight line. I like to sometimes bring the middle plant forward just to give it a little bit of depth.
Yep.
So not everything is lined up like a row like soldiers.
Right, yep.
Yep, and it's the rule of design, odd numbers,
Yep.
triangles, things like that. We kind of pull that first one forward. Occasionally we push the middle one back and pull the 2 side ones forward if there's a reason for that. But I think in this situation, 3 big hydrangeas in the back. If we go with Incrediball, I think would be in good
Incredible.
shape.
It would be incredible.
Nailed it.
Well, what I was going to say is, except for the painting 6 Persimmons. 6 Persimmons, when I was getting my master's in the arts there.
'Kay.
6 Persimmons is one of the paintings that is a spectacular painting that has 6 persimmons. So not odd.
Right,
Not 1, 3, 5, 6.
I'm with you.
So Google it
Okay,
if you care.
but 3 on each side will give us the 6.
Beautiful. Well, and do they have a smell?
Not much of a fragrance with hydrangeas, unfortunately.
Well, that's okay. I mean, you can't be great at everything. You have to, they're doing a big show right here.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well,
I think I prefer these maybe to the blue or the pink. This is, maybe my dad and me, but I
Right.
think I do prefer those. They're and I love the fact that they are green. And
yeah,
then they're green again, and the green's beautiful.
and going back to, site conditions, the front of that house is facing south, getting almost all day sun.
Right.
The blue hydrangeas just don't hold up in that afternoon heat. Yeah, they're always drooping. These droop a little bit in that hot afternoon sun, but not nearly as much. So they're really geared for this kind of location.
So this is nice and soft.
Yeah, we love the texture on this. This is called fine line buckthorn.
You were telling me about this ahead of time.
Right.
The buckthorn. This is the one you were talking about.
Yeah, it has an
This is
incredible
in the
texture.
plan. This
Yep.
is-
So something for tall and skinny. As you can see, it gets a lot taller than it does wide, and for a narrow space that wants an interesting texture. And seaside plantings, we often will use plants that drop their leaves to the wintertime where we can't use something like a boxwood, which normally I would love to use a boxwood.
I love boxwoods.
Yeah.
Something about them, I just do love them. But they're a little formal for that house, so I think we both decided that. But also, they won't do as well.
They won't do as well with this wind. And these drop their leaves in the wintertime, which is the downside.
So then what does it look? Just like all sticks?
A
Like
little
grown?
sticky, kind of like the hydrangeas, unfortunately, with the beachy look.
Yeah.
The front of the property won't look as nice, but it is the sacrifice you have to make for having the view of all the boats going by.
Yeah.
So
It's a trade-off.
yeah, ocean or beautiful landscape in the winter. So we focus towards summer, and this is one of these awesome plants that not too many people are aware of, but has a nice texture. Very similar to an ornamental grass, which you see a lot down by the beach, and we
Yes.
can look at that and make a decision on that as well.
Do you have to do one or the other, or I mean, in your plan, or
Well, there are always spots where we can invent spaces if we need to, and grasses come in all different sizes and shapes.
I could always put them on my decks too.
Correct. They grow great on decks and in containers.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, this is beautiful. Now, how old's this one? This one's really tall. This is not new.
and it's funny, you
I mean-
you think this is a really super old plant, but this is really only 2-3 years in the ground now.
Seriously.
So we can start with something like this and then let it grow a little bit. And then if it starts to get out of bounds, this is one of those plants that is very prunable.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Wow. So those two that you told me about, they're both prunable.
prunable.
Okay.
It's not a word, but I
don't-
use it anyways.
It's okay. Someone told me once you should prune your friends, like the ones who just don't, you don't feel or
Yes.
have grown with you. You just prune your friends. not the good friends, the ones that
Yeah.
I mean, when you've grown and they
Yeah.
haven't grown, you just prune.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of interesting. Never heard that one before. Till then. You ever heard it?
I have not.
No.
I have not, but I'll keep that in mind.
I'm not saying any of your friends. No offense to any of your friends. I'm sure they're all awesome. Yeah, so I love it. And I love the texture. I love it. So it's so soft. And no bug problems or anything like that with these?
No,
Okay.
and very wind tolerant.
And so these roses are not big roses. These are sweet little roses.
Right.
Is
These are
this-
more like a spray rose.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah,
A spray rose.
a spray rose. They have more flowers, but smaller, cuter flowers, I guess.
Yeah.
And the trend for a lot of low maintenance type landscapes is to use more of a shrub rose. Okay, this is a rose called apricot drift, and it is a dwarf rose. It grows a lot smaller than your typical roses, and it's actually the front tier of a planting instead of the back tier.
Right.
Where normal roses grow a little bit taller, they're long stems, big flowers for cutting. These are more of a landscape rose. Sorry.
Because of the topography.
Yes. For that reason, and also because they're easy care,
I love
and you just kind of let them do their thing. And if you want to take the time to deadhead the roses and cut the little flowers off, you can. But they're not as much of a cut the rose and bring it in the house. They're just meant to look pretty and kind of leave it alone kind
Yeah,
of
there
rose.
are some flowers and plants that I love to deadhead. I love to deadhead rhodies and
Okay.
geraniums. For some reason, I
Okay.
just love deadheading because you go right down to the bottom and just.
Correct.
There's some I just really enjoy that actually.
That's
therapeutic.
Yeah.
Therapeutic deadheading.
Correct.
So okay, so I could do that.
And you can still do that with these roses. You can still take off the spent blooms and just snip them, and that's perfectly fine.
Okay.
But because of the just pure amount of flowers that these produce, it's actually hard to keep up with the deadhead.
Yeah, I believe that.
And if you get behind with these and knockouts and some of the other kind of trendy names, you'll be fine. But the beauty is they have nice foliage, and they have these repeat flowers that just kind of keep throwing flowers out all summer long.
Now, what do these look like in the fall and winter?
So many of the roses will continue to flower right into the cold season.
Seriously.
Yeah, and then when finally the leaves start to drop and fall, they will look a little barren. Again, we're getting back to that kind of seaside winter
It's
look.
okay. I'm not judging because they go in, during the other
Right.
weather. I'm
Right.
not judging. That's their nature. We're letting everything just take its natural course.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I love the pairing of it. It's
Yeah.
pretty.
So this has an interesting texture. This is a nice dark, smaller leaf, smaller flowers, and the hydrangeas get a little bit bigger leaves and flowers. So there's a little bit of a texture difference. You're going to get a lot of summer color with this combination because you're talking hydrangea, long flower power, and same thing with the roses.
Now, at the house, you were saying maybe pinks. So is apricot? This is looks a little pink to me.
We can pick any flavor we want.
Yeah.
The drift roses and some of the other, like what we call kind of lower dwarf ground cover roses, come in many different flavors, anywhere from whites to pinks to almost an orangey color. So yeah, you can pick any flavor you want.
Yeah, and like you said, the white goes with everything. So
White
you can
goes
do
with
anything
everything.
you want.
Yeah, and we have plenty of clients that do all white gardens. So
Yeah.
really up to you.
We'll have an all-white master bedroom.
Right.
All white works.
Yeah.
Color works too.
Almost
Love it.
every kitchen is all white now,
Yeah.
so stay with the trend.
Yeah. Well, looks nice. All right. So the grasses.
We're in grassland.
We're right. We could do a nature documentary right now. No one would even know.
We could.
Except maybe the beautiful location that you have. But that lets people have cars come right in.
That's true.
I mean, if you didn't have that, be down some.
We need a busy road. That helps being a garden center.
Yep. Especially when you have a beautiful sign like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these tiger something. I only saying that because of the way it is very.
Yeah, we call it porcupine grass is one of the names, but there's a whole variety here of grasses that have various uses. Most of the grasses love full sun. They love beach seaside conditions. So really, many of these varieties would work in that situation that's facing south, getting that sun all day long, no problem. What we need to do is just keep in mind size and space, and in this situation, we might be looking at things that are a little bit on the smaller scale. So as we move to the front of our grass display, we're probably looking at maybe like a blue fescue or dwarf fountain grass or something like that. And then around the back, we might be talking about one of the shade ones. There's a really horrible name grass. The common name is called forest grass,
Okay.
but Hakanakloa is what I have to say.
Hakanakloa? God bless you. I don't know what to say when you say that.
Right, so Hakanakloa
Yeah.
is something we have to say all the time, but it is one of our most popular grasses and sometimes replaces hostas in the shade. The deer don't eat them. They can take the shade. They add bright color. I will show you that in the back area, but
That sounds good.
these grasses, they wave in the breeze. They give you a nice texture. Can't go wrong.
Okay, so what do we have here now?
All right, so now we're getting to the front row of the garden, okay? So we want things that are gonna be lower, but we wanna continue our color theme. And again, I love blue.
I love blue.
Okay, so blue goes good with pink, peach, whatever roses we pick, and our hydrangeas that are white. So I think it kind of goes with the theme. These guys are called cat mint, okay, not to be confused with catnip.
So
But
they are a little
yeah,
minty.
and we have a resident cat, and a couple of times we found him laying right in the middle of the cat mint.
Oh, okay. So this is a cat draw, like a butterfly bush. This is like a cat draw.
A
where-
little
in
bit,
the
but
neighborhood,
it's
I'm gonna have all the cats over, or no? Just
yeah,
they like it
a little bit,
because
but
it smells good, or
it's
why?
not quite as much of a drug to the cats as catnip. But this is also called nepeta, okay, and it is a mid-spring sporadic blooming all the way through the summer. And what I like about it is this just big burst of flowers in the spring, and then it will continue to sporadically bloom all summer long. But to me, if you're going to use a perennial in the front of the border, it has to look good even when it's not in bloom.
Okay.
And cat mint has good-looking foliage
It does.
even when it's not in bloom,
It does. Oh,
which is a
I'm not a flower.
yeah. And they will attract some bees, as you can see, and the
Yes.
honeybees absolutely love these guys.
Well, that's good for nature.
It is. It is. They won't bother you, I promise.
Okay. I know.
Um,
My dad used to take the bumblebees, and he used to just like kind of like pat them, and he said, "No, look, it's." And I said, "Well, I had that bee attack when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
I'm a teeny bit wimpy about it a little bit.
And
But he
you're
used to
not-
just bubble the bumblebees.
Yeah, and you're not alone. There are people that ask about bees and that type of thing.
But that's really good. We need the honeybees.
It's a movement right now to protect our pollinators, and catmint are one of the many plants that are really tough, reliable plants that grow flower for a long time. So it's a good source.
So I'll
of
take it for the
nectar.
team.
Yeah, I think so.
I'll take it for the team.
The flower power is definitely worth it.
Yep.
And then
pretty.
you pair this with some of your grasses to give you a little bit different texture. So if we talk about this blue fescue grass, this is a nice front of the border or maybe either side of the steps kind of a plant. These have this gorgeous blue foliage. And there are several varieties of lower grasses. I mentioned the fountain grass as well. And then these have this like kind of tannish-like plume that comes out in the summertime.
Yeah.
So it's a nice
Are these
texture.
the seeds? Those are the seeds.
Those are the seeds.
Yes.
Correct. So they flower and then seed.
Nature's crazy.
Yeah.
Beautiful, amazing.
Yep. So it's a fescue grass. Can't go wrong. Nice texture added to the front of the border.
Like it. Okay, I'm approving so far. Everything good, 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 good. Yes, good.
Excellent.
Why does it say Blue Label? Does that mean this is like really special?
That means that from this particular grower, which is one of our best, they take their top plants and they make them very special. And Persian Blue happens to be one of my favorites because it's a very nice, tidy plant that does less flopping. And some of the catmints, especially the bigger ones, they tend to be a little bit bigger and they flop over. Persian Blue has a tendency to stay nice and tight and has a nice, deep, rich blue color, as you can see. And the other thing that I like to do that's a surprise that I really shouldn't tell you about, but I usually throw a few extra plants in the truck.
Oh, really?
Because, we can't make every decision here at the garden center.
Right, you
There's
have
just
to-
too many choices.
You have to play them out. And
Right. And by the time this contractor gets that done and blah, 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 we get to the job and it's time to put it in. We have to add some color. So I might sneak a couple annuals in. I might sneak maybe, did you mention alyssum smells good?
I do like, yeah, I did.
So we might have to add a few things here and there, and I always kind of create some spaces. But that's the fun of owning a garden center is I don't have to order these plants 6 months in advance. I can pick anything I want the day of the job, and I always bring a few surprises. It's much more fun that way. And I can give you a few choices. So if you have too much blue, you have too much white, you want to add a little pink, or you want to add a little yellow, we can do it. So all part of the deal.
That sounds good. So lovely out here. So pleasant.
It's a little escape back here.
Right, with the river there.
Correct.
And the marsh grass, and
Yeah.
then and the beautiful landscaping here. Do people come out here to get inspired?
They do. We use this as a display garden for landscape designs and for a little getaway. We do events out here. Kind of a fun little space.
Yeah. Nature is amazing.
It is.
Now, have you always thought that? I mean, how long has your company, your whole business been in your family, and like when did it start?
So this is year 60.
You're 60.
I look good, don't I?
Yeah, you. Yeah, you do. Supposed to be all that fresh air.
Yeah. No, it was my dad and help from his grandfather actually helped him buy the business.
Was it already a business like this, or was
It was a farm
Okay.
basically,
Yeah.
and had a little store with a little potbelly stove that kind of kept things warm, but we didn't
Oh.
even have a greenhouse at the time. And my dad was into doing landscape type things. He cut grass and, he would trim the neighbors' hedges and things like that.
Okay. So he had a little pent up energy
He
for
did.
that.
Yeah, and very
Yeah.
driven. And my great grandfather saw that in him. And when he saw this property available for sale, he said, "We need to do this." My father was in Starkwood School of Agriculture at UMass. And he wasn't quite ready to take over a business, but the opportunity presented itself, and his grandfather said, "This is the time we got to do it."
Yeah. Life happens like that a lot.
It does.
They say don't wait till you're ready.
Yeah.
I mean, really, don't wait till you're ready.
Yeah. And
Because
my dad,
sometimes waiting till you're ready, you're never gonna be ready. You're
my
never
dad
really
is
gonna
not a
be ready.
procrastinator. His grandfather was not a procrastinator, and unfortunately, his grandfather had a stroke like within a year. Right in the beginning. Never saw what my dad did with the place, which
Oh,
is
yeah.
really too bad because my father really, to keep things together in the 60s when, he really had to work his tail off to get things, going, to make ends meet. You could see the ledger in the 60s, there was like 4 people on the payroll. He just needed to work really hard just to pay the bills, and then, you fast forward 60 years and it's a whole different business altogether.
Now, do you have? I know it's not. That wasn't the time of selfies and constant photo taking, but do you have any photos?
We do.
From back then. Oh, do
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
What kind of photos?
So we have some grainy photos looking back at this property. It was a dirt road coming in. We were kind of notorious for growing irises and peonies.
Oh, pretty.
We still sell plenty of those, but we used to literally grow them in the ground and people would buy them. They would come in and say, "I want that iris." It would be in bloom. And then our staff would have to say, well, you can't buy it today because it's in bloom. We'll have to wait till it's past bloom, and then we'll dig it up when it's safe.
Give you the bill.
And
Give you the,
yeah, and then we'll put it in a piece of newspaper, and you can take it home. A customer today would not stand for having to wait 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks
Right.
to get their plants. So everything is now in a pot, where back then everything was in the ground and had to be harvested and so forth. So it's a different business, but you know, we kind of go back to our roots. We try to focus a little bit more on, you know, iris, peonies, things like that. But it was a whole different deal back then.
Yeah. Now, do you always incorporate words from the garden, like roots and things like that, in your regular speech without even
We
intending
do.
to?
It's part of the vocabulary. We don't even think about it sometimes, but yeah, and sometimes the marketing, we on Father's Day, we always say, remember your roots.
Remember your roots. Yeah, that's a good one.
Right.
That's a good one. Yeah. So, tell me about when did you come in and you said to your dad, I want to work here, or your dad said, do you want to work here, or did you start when you were
Yeah, I didn't
way
go that
little?
way.
Like,
Well, there was way
can we
little.
talk about that story? Or
Yeah,
not?
there was way little.
Yeah.
There was days helping on the peat moss pile. We had big, huge bales of peat moss,
Yeah.
and we used to make forts.
Oh, cool.
And me and my friend, who also his dad worked here, we used to hide and make forts. And then when we'd jump up and down off the peat moss bales, we'd put holes in all the bags.
Oh.
And the people that worked here would get peat moss in their hair and everything, and not be so happy with us. So yeah,
a little trouble,
yeah, a little bit.
but
you know,
fun. All in good fun.
right. But our moms wanted us to go to work with our dads, because if not, we never saw our dads, because they worked all the time.
Yes, exactly. Especially, I mean, there's a couple novels that I read that were set in nurseries,
Right.
and the year, how it goes for you. Like, people think, oh, when you're not open. I mean, are you open during the holidays and all the way through the entire year?
We are. We're one of the few garden centers that's open year round.
Yeah.
But there is peaks and valleys in our season, and winter is super slow.
Yeah.
And
But
then
there's still work to be done, like planning for the next year,
Always
what
work.
you're getting. I mean, there's
Yeah.
still,
it's just like being in a farm. The work is never done.
yeah,
As my wife will tell me,
yeah.
you could work forever. You could work all night,
Yeah.
all day. He's like, sometimes you just got to come home.
Yep. Sometimes you're gonna come home. Now, do your kids come here? Are they part of it yet?
We're starting.
Yes.
We're starting. With me, it was like pulling teeth, and it's like that with my kids right now.
Yeah.
I started on loading cars, and then it was the landscape crew, and that was through the high school, college years, and I didn't like working then.
Yeah.
That was work,
Right.
and it was
That wasn't sitting in a lifeguard chair.
no.
Because I know a lot of kids who had that summer job, and I thought, oh, right. Well, not that saving lives is not important.
It is
but,
important.
But
It's a different level of work ethic.
It's a different.
Yeah, and work ethic is something that's desperately needed, and we don't see it as much, and it makes it harder for us to employ people now, because we're looking for people that
Right.
have that work ethic, and
Yes.
I think it's something that needs to be taught or sometimes forced.
That's when you're best, when you're busy.
Correct.
So you picked the right. So what did you want to do if you didn't do this?
Well, I wanted to be in sports somehow,
Yeah.
some way.
So you were an athlete your whole life.
Yeah, I liked to play sports, just wasn't that good at it,
Oh.
and wanted to go to.
Is that humility or is that true?
I thought I was good
Yeah.
at the time, but in reality, I'm not that good.
Well, they do scores, they do scores in sports, so
Right.
you can pretty much tell. I mean, did you hit the ball? And
Yeah. No, we did the varsity thing, all
Yeah,
that,
oh,
but
cool.
wasn't good enough to play in school.
Yeah.
Go on and get a scholarship, that type of thing.
Yeah.
But I always thought I wanted to do that as a career, something in the sports field. But we decided that with the business in place, even though at the time I really didn't love working hard,
Right.
it was an opportunity that was presented itself. So I said, well, why don't we go to a school that was big enough that accommodates agriculture, horticulture, landscape design, things like that. And then if I decided to switch into sports, which was my ultimate plan,
Right.
I could easily transfer majors. Well, I never did, because I started to like what I was doing. My other classmates didn't know anything about plants and design.
So you had a leg up.
I grew up in it, so they
Right.
were coming to me. It made me feel a little bit more confident, and I feel strongly that when you're confident and then you start to get good at something,
Yeah.
then you start to like it,
Right.
and then you feel proud of it, and then you just keep going. And I have a love for plants. I liked, I'm proud of the fact that I know plants inside and out, and I don't think there are that many people that know plants like I do. So when you get to that level, you feel that confidence, and then when you're with clients and doing projects and you have that passion, it kind of shows, and just it kind of all comes together. So I'm glad I chose this path. I didn't originally think the hard work path was going to be
Yeah.
mine.
Well, in terms of hard work, I mean, being around this environment though must be somehow good for your soul.
It is.
I mean, not not the paperwork, not
Right.
in your office all the time, but
Right.
just being out in nature is good. I mean, using your gifts is something that makes you happy. Being in accordance with virtue makes you happy, and I
Right.
think being in an environment like this
Right.
with nature infused has to do something with your state of mind at some point.
I agree with that completely, and I'm noticing it more as a homeowner now that I'm landscaping my own house and surrounding my back patio with plants. I'm starting to enjoy them more because I look at them more as work. And everywhere I look at landscapes that need to be corrected or fixed. And my eye goes to the negative because that's my job, is to fix things.
Right.
So I have to be able to let go. And there are certain places when they're well done, I can just let go and enjoy them. But it isn't that often where I can do that.
And now, so knowing all the plants that you do, and is it just in New England plants? I mean, if I threw you out in the middle of, I don't know, name a place. If I just threw you out there, would you be able to, like, Bear Grylls know
Well,
your plants?
You could name Florida because my father moved there, and
Okay.
it's a whole new plant palette. So
Right.
landscaping down there is a whole different deal. Now, a lot of the design elements stay the same. You vary your textures, bloom times, heights, all that. That all kind of stays the same, but the plant material has to be learned all over again because it is a different group of plants. There is a little bit of overlap, and some of the plants that grow up here, they have varieties that will grow down in the south, but it is a whole different deal.
Yeah. Now, does he do his own landscaping and putter in his yard down there too?
My dad can't sit still even at 82. He's working in the yard constantly. He's either on the golf course or he's planting plants or pulling weeds or something.
Now, does he still call you and talk about the business? Is he still, how much involved is he right now?
He's very interested.
Yeah.
We try not to get him too involved in the details.
Yes.
Because we then get into a little frustrating
Yeah.
conversations about, why didn't you do this? How come you didn't do
Oh,
it
yeah.
that way? We used to do it this way.
Yep.
Now, no, Dad, we do it this way now. So we try not to get too into the nitty gritty.
Right.
We just try to keep it on the lighter side because
You
we
wouldn't
like
be
to
a
get
good
along.
dad if you didn't do a little bit of that.
Right, right, exactly.
I'm already doing that to my kids, so I know we always talk about that. And so, do you have a favorite plant? I mean, is it possible to have a favorite?
It's possible to have a lot of favorites, and trying to pick just one is like trying to pick out your favorite child. It's
Yeah.
not fair. We like them for different reasons,
Yeah.
and there's pros and cons and so forth. But we do a lot with hydrangeas. We're on the South Shore. We're a coastal community. I have a very big interest in them because we sell a lot of them. We use them a lot in designs. So I really like to,
And they're gorgeous.
yeah, and they flower for a long time. So I have a passion towards those particular plants. They bloom, because they bloom all summer long. People all want them in their yards in New England. And then, of course, there's a whole mysterious side to hydrangeas.
Right.
People ask, why don't they bloom? Or how come mine turn blue and
Pink, or-
not
yeah.
pink? And do these ones turn color? When do I prune them? So there's a gazillion questions. Becoming an expert in this area is hugely important. And then planting so many varieties and trialing them has been an important, goal of mine. And so that's one of the plants. And I have a favorite tree. It's called a Japanese snowbell.
You'll show me
And-
that, maybe?
Yeah, we have a weeping one here in the property.
Oh, nice.
I have a burgundy leaf one at my house that I just planted. I have an upright one with pink flowers, so there's all different kinds. It's one of my favorites.
Well, what I tell my children is, I love you uniquely, not equally.
Correct.
So you can say the same for all of the plants.
That is
the
correct.
plethora of plants. Now tell me, how many acres do you have here? Like, how big is the property?
It's 4.5 acres, and what makes us a little bit different than most garden centers is we do have a fair amount of display garden space, which means a little bit more work, a little
Making
bit.
it look always
Correct.
immaculate and beautiful. It cannot be easy.
No, it's not. It takes a little bit more work, but we enjoy it. We love to have a place to play, and then a place to sell and do our business. So it's a nice balance. We're lucky to have a nice piece of property that's right on the North River.
Right.
Boats go by behind us, we have the ocean breezes. So it's a pretty good situation.
Not just metal carts with a bunch of six packs
Yeah,
of
yeah.
of perennials.
It's not all asphalt.
No.
We have a lot of plantings
That's
around it,
nice,
and we,
yeah.
we try to make the best use of the space.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So what do you think people don't know about some of the things that you provide besides landscaping design
Right.
and also all the plants? Now, what if someone said, "Oh, do you have this? Do you have the ability to go get it if you don't have it, or find it for them, or do
Yeah.
you just
We do it all the time.
yeah,
Customization is what it's all about. People want things that are catered to their tastes and their likes. So it does take a little bit more work to kind of dig in and find out what people like. Some people don't want any input, and other people want to tell us their life story, and then you dive in and then you kind of cater. So we do people's containers for them. So, we customize based on sunlight, shape, height, pot size, color, all that type of thing. And then, you have sunlight, you have shade, you have different conditions. Some people work all the time. Some people have, plants that are in the shade that don't need as much water, and then plants in the sun. So we will cater to those different things. We offer delivery, we offer planting services. It's just basically whatever the customer wants and needs. We're usually willing to try to help if we have the ability to do it.
yeah. Now, in terms of your team here, have a lot of them been with you for a long time? I know Susan. I've seen her around for years. I mean, I've been coming
Right.
here for 20 years since I've lived on the South Shore.
Yeah, over the years, I think I've worked with 5 or 6 people that have been here for multiple decades. So when you have people that are here for 2+ decades, there's just so much knowledge and experience that comes with that can't be replaced when they leave. And that knowledge that they have is just so valuable to our customers. When you work here for 1 year, you learn a lot. When you work here for 10 years, you learn so much. And most people just aren't ingrained with that kind of knowledge, so you just have to live it and work it, and
Right.
you learn a lot. So it is a complex business. It's so seasonal. It changes all the time. There's new plants, there's new things going on. So it's a fun, exciting industry to be in if you can take the ups and the downs and go with the flow.
Right.
You have to be able to do that.
The ebb and flow of our New England seasons and
Correct.
all the things. So during the holidays, do you change the product that you have a little bit?
Completely.
I mean, you don't have hydrangeas that you're selling. Oh, you might, but what do
Yeah,
you
we
do
go
for the
to
holidays? Do you
complete
sell-
holiday Christmas scene
Yeah.
here. We still have plants inside. We have poinsettias and Christmas cactus and some of your common things that you'd see in a greenhouse. But we really go pretty wild outside when it comes to Christmas trees. We sell, some years we have 11 varieties of Christmas trees.
Wow.
Not your typical 1 or 2 varieties because, again, our customers like things, they want to be a little bit different, and they've grown accustomed to having this particular type of Christmas tree, so we go and try to find it for them. We try to find trees that are Massachusetts grown. We have a local farm that we get trees from. We find local greens. We have people that go pick greens for us, and berries and twigs and things like that.
And you have wreath makers and all that here too?
We customize almost every wreath. We sell a few plain wreaths, but most of our wreaths, I swear, are decorated by hands of local people. So it's all local staff, all local people. We get our wreaths as local as we can. And we do Christmas pretty well. I actually think it's our best season, even though people think of a garden center in the spring.
Right.
Christmas is a big one for us. And we're in a group of other garden centers, and our numbers, where they look at what we do, and other garden centers are often asking us, how do you do what
Yeah.
you do at Christmas? And
When our feet are all up and we're snoring.
right, we don't buy it in, we make it. Like
Yeah.
we buy in the ingredients and then make it. And it's just like a chef, we love having all the ingredients out and taking them and making it into something.
Yeah, like when you were talking about your planters. I mean, if you have the bevy of product that you have, all
Right.
the plants, then it's just more fodder to be able to create something amazing
Right,
every time.
right,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And that's good for you too, right? The creativity and doing all that.
Yep, every season. And we have a lot of creative types that work here, and they love, just getting their hands dirty and making things for folks. And then, there's so many good comments and nice things that people say to our staff over the years. It just kind of makes it all worthwhile in the end. It's a very rewarding business. We're not selling insurance
Right.
or caskets
Or,
or things that people don't want.
right.
They come here to get beauty and make their houses look better and feel better. And the mental side of flowers and plants is a great thing, and it's just a great business to be in for that reason.
Yeah. And so, what does the future look like? I mean, do you have plans for, I don't know, I mean, expansion, or are you adding more buildings, or are you, I mean, are you gonna do it for 60 more years? I mean, what do you think do you have a plan?
No, there's never a plan.
There's never a plan.
We do look at opportunities.
Roll with it.
We have gone with a second store before. We used to have a flowers and wine store. We look at opportunities. It has to be the right thing.
Yeah.
But the problem when you expand is you dilute your product and your level of expertise, I think. So if we're going to ever do that, it's going to be the right thing. And a lot of that has to do with the next generation. A lot of it has to do with the economy, what our customers want. So
That's the quality. Sometimes when you see the expansion, that's when the quality goes down. So it sounds to me like your plan is to keep the quality, and if an opportunity, comes up, if it doesn't interfere with the quality, then
bingo.
you consider it.
Correct. And I'm using the landscape side as our opportunity to expand. There was a day when we had 5 trucks, 5 crews. We had maintenance crews, construction crews, and then the late 80s hit, the economy went down. It was just better to kind of hunker in and just focus on retail. Now we're kind of doing a little bit of both. We love doing the landscape design part of it.
Yeah.
Finding employees that really love digging holes and working outside is a challenge. It's an industry issue. But as the availability of labor kind of expands and more people want to get their hands dirty and the trades start to open up a little bit, there's room for doing more of that. But we work with a whole bunch of different contractors that have good crews that we work with, and to me that's the key. So we kind of look at that landscape side as the opportunity for growth.
Yeah. Well, some of the younger generation is going back to farming and locally sourced and
Correct.
knowing where they're, like the millennials, they want to know where everything comes from.
Correct.
They want to know all of that. So maybe it'll start to come in where people are wanting, like the people you're looking for.
It's starting to turn the corner.
Yeah, I think so. With this generation, wants to be a little bit more outside and control their.
Right. Yep.
They don't want to sit in an office anyway. Right.
No. Well, many of them don't.
Yeah.
Some like their devices.
Yeah.
So that's the trick right now, is the kids that will choose outside versus the device.
Right. Exactly. Well, they didn't invent it. It's kind of our fault, I guess, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
They didn't invent it. They were just born into it. Very different from the way we are.
Yeah. And as a parent, I'm working hard to try to unplug the device.
Exactly. Well, beautiful place.
Thank you.
Good story.
Thank you.
Continued success.
Thank you very much.
Carry on.
That is the goal.